Okay, hello student. For this video clip, we'll discuss about the cost assignment. Particularly, we'll focus on the indirect cost because direct costs are physically traced very easily to a cost objective. But indirect production costs are not easily traceable. So it should be allocated using a cost pool allocation basis. So let's practice with this exercise. Indirect production cost allocation, comparing traditional costing system and activity-based costing system. The example shows the wireless phone manufacturing division. A customer electronic companies uses activity-based costing for simplicity. Assume that its managers have identified only the following three activities and the related cost drivers for indirect production cost. We have those activities. Okay, then the total indirect production cost is 125,400. And three types of cell phone are produced: senior, basic, and deluxe. The cost driver for each product for recent month are as follows: direct material cost or engineering change notice, number of engineering change notices, and the kilowatt hours. And then those cost driver units are allocated to each cost object. Question number one: suppose all indirect production costs had been allocated to products in proportion to the direct material cost. We are using just only single cost driver, and then compute the indirect production cost allocated to each product under traditional system. Okay, so we have only one cost driver, which is the direct material cost. So this 125,400 should be allocated using the direct material cost driver, this cost driver. So senior, how do you get it? Senior from this total indirect production cost times, we need this proportion percentage of the cost driver units of senior, 25,000 divided by 220,000 in total amount of cost driver units. So 14,250. What about the basics? Again, we allocate 125,400 with the percentage, the proportion of the direct material cost driver units divided by total direct material cost. That is the proportion. 60,000 over 220. That is the portion times 125,400, the total indirect production cost allocation. So basic cell phone actually use this indirect production cost by 35,200. And then finally deluxe, here one more time, 125,400 total indirect production cost to be allocated to deluxe is times, we need to calculate, that's correct, the proportion. So we found out, indirect production cost based on the cost driver units of direct material cost allocated to the senior 14,000, basic 34,000, and deluxe 77,000. Let's make sure that it is perfectly allocated. So sum of this three indirect cost into this cost object is 125,400, exactly same as this. That is the traditional way. Even though we have the activities along with this cost driver, then this indirect production cost are segregated by this activity. We ignore these activities. Instead, we use just a direct material cost assuming that we do not have this activities information. But now we have this activities information. So we use multiple cost drivers by production activities. Each activities has its own cost driver, and we use this indirect production costs aligned with the cost driver or with these activities. So we are not using this number. Instead, we use this indirect production cost into each cost object, senior, basic, or deluxe. Okay. Then we also have the cost driver units, different cost driver units along with these activities. They are a pair of the combination. In order to do this material handling activity, they use direct material cost. In the engineering process, the cost driver matched with the engineering is engineering change notices, number of engineering change notice. And then the power activities, the cost driver maybe is kilowatt hour. Kilowatt hour is much more appropriate cost driver than direct material cost when we use in the previous case with trading a traditional system. Okay, so let's start the allocation. Now we start from this material handling with the cost driver direct material cost, right? So we want to allocate this amount into here. Where do we go? Here, 25,000 divided by the proportion cost driver for the material handling activities. So we got the senior indirect cost out of 15,400, 1,750 based on the material handling activities. We got this indirect production cost out of 15,400, 1,750, right? Then basic, the same way, under this material handling activities, 15,400 times we need the proportion 60,000 from the basic the cost object divided by total. Then deluxe, the same way, 15,400 times. Now the proportion of deluxe of based on the direct material cost driver portion out of total. So we allocate this 15,400 with material handling activities, and the cost driver was the direct material cost. Then what about the engineering? Engineering, now we use engineering indirect production cost. Indirect production cost under the engineering activities, we use cost driver engineering change notice. Now we are not using the direct material cost. Instead, we use this engineering change notice, number of engineering change notice unit. So the proportion, the percentage of this engineering change notice cost driver units out of a total, we got 18,900 out of 99,000 engineering indirect production cost. And then the same way, out of 99,000 times percentage of this engineering change notice out of total engineering change notice. So 18,000 is the indirect production cost under the engineering activities using the cost driver engineering change notice information. Good. Then finally 99,000, how do we allocate? One more time. 69 number of engineering change notice over total engineering change notice. So we got it, right? And then what about power? Power part. Power, under the power activities, we have the kilowatts cost driver, the specific cost driver matched with this activity. Under this activity, we spent indirect production cost $11,000. Now let's allocate this 11,000 indirect production cost using this matching cost driver unit, which is the kilowatt hours. So that is the proportion for the senior cell phones. And then for the basic, so we allocated this by the percentage of basic kilowatt hour cost driver units. And then finally, also 11,000 times 100,000 divided by total hours. So finally, we allocated all this indirect production cost under the different activities using the different cost driver matched with these activities. Okay, so let's make sure that if we make this right, definitely 15,000. Do you see we have the same indirect cost, total indirect cost under the material handling activities. The same way, sum of these three also 99. Then so finally this three also 11,000. So it should be sum of this indirect production cost on each activities should be the same as 125,400, right? Then I just want to drag. So we come up with the indirect production cost on each cost object. Now let's compare these two. What do you see? Okay, under the traditional system, the indirect production cost allocated was 77,000. It's not much different, right? But the basic cell phone has different results. Under the traditional system, the basic indirect production cost is much higher than the indirect production cost by ABC system. So if we use this traditional system, what about the senior cell phone? Huge is different, right? If we use traditional system to identify indirect production cost, the senior cell phone allocates very low cost. We are given very wrong information. If we allocate it like in that way, like 14,250 indirect production cost, we can give some more favor to the production of the senior because it costs less than the cell phones like basic or deluxe. But when you calculate more accurately, the senior cell phone actually spend more indirect production costs than other cases. Okay, so that's the correct. So when we choose which product costs more or less, then the activity-based cost system provide us with accurate, the exact the information like that way, because this activity-based cost system considers all the activities during the production, and we measure these activities, indirect production cost, along with these activities measured by the matching cost driver, appropriate cost drivers. Okay, yeah, that's it. Then we'll see the next exercise for the two-stage ABC system. See you next clip, the video clip. Bye bye.